Having arrived at the airport for the first time in her life, the elderly Mrs. Austen was confused. She eventually decided to follow the group of passengers who were rushing to their plane, believing that, unlike her, they knew what to do. Although the woman put on her best clothes for this journey, many people still mistook her for a beggar. Therefore, the girl at the check-in counter was very surprised when she saw the woman had a business class ticket. At last, Mrs. Austen found the gate and sat down in the chair to wait for the departure. Seeing how nervous she was, a young man who was sitting next to her asked, "Are you flying for the first time?" "Yes, I'm very nervous," she replied. At this moment, the passengers were asked to board. Soon the woman was standing next to her seat in business class, which was next to a well-dressed man. However, when he saw her, the smile faded from his face. "It's business class, right?" he asked the flight attendant. "Then why should I sit next to this beggar?" "Mr. Black, the fact is that Mrs. Austen also has a business class ticket," the girl replied. "I don't care," the man replied harshly. All this time, the poor old woman was silently watching the scene along with other passengers. Among them, there was the young man who she had spoken to at the airport. He decided to stand up for the woman and shamed the man for sitting comfortably in the chair while the elderly person was forced to stand. The flight attendant did not know what to do and looked pleadingly at Mrs. Austen. The old woman understood everything and said with tears in her eyes, "Okay, let's not argue. I'll go to the economy class." Seeing several pairs of eyes staring at him, Mr. Black gave in. "Okay, sit down. After all, you paid for this ticket." The woman sat down and an old photograph fell out of her open bag. The man picked it up. There was a little boy in the photo. "Does this photo mean a lot to you?" he asked Mrs. Austen, handing her the picture. "Yes, this is my son," the woman replied with a smile. "He's a pilot, and now he's flying our plane," and she told her story. Jane Austen grew up in a poor family. She was the eldest of the children, so she was taking care of the younger ones. During the Second World War, her father volunteered to the front. He left Jane a golden family heirloom and told her to take good care of it. Unfortunately, her father died in the war. After that, her mother never met another man. As the time went on, it was Jane's turn to start her own family, but she had to stay with her mother and the younger brother, who was mentally handicapped. The girl met her love only at the age of 28. Her chosen one was the local shepherd Eric. However, young people were not destined to live a long, happy life. Eric died in a fire trying to save Jane's brother. After a while, the girl realized that she was pregnant. Soon she gave birth to a boy. By this time, however, her mother had developed dementia and began to behave aggressively. For 3 years, Jane lived in fear for the life of her child until she decided to give him to an orphanage. She believed that her son would be better off there than under the same roof with a crazy grandmother. When her mother died, she hurried to the orphanage to take her son back, but she was told that he had been adopted. She had been looking for the boy for several years and finally succeeded. That is why she bought a business class ticket to see her son. "Now I can die in peace," she finished her story. All passengers were touched. No one noticed that the flight attendant quietly entered the cockpit. A few minutes later, everyone heard the announcement. "Dear passengers, this is the captain speaking. Our flight is coming to an end, but not our life. Yes, it's full of mistakes, ups and downs, but without them, we would not know the joy of forgiveness. So I want to tell my mother, who is now flying this plane, that I forgave her a long time ago. I love her and consider her a good person." When the plane landed, Mrs. Austen hugged her son for the first time and handed him the golden family heirloom she had been keeping so carefully for all her life.